The sound of screeching tires tore through the calm morning air. A black sedan came hurtling around the corner, its tinted windows glinting under the sun. On the sidewalk, a man in a worn denim jacket instinctively threw his coffee to the ground and bolted forward. His name was Ryan Callan, a single dad just trying to make it through another long day. But in that single heartbeat, his life changed forever. The sedan's door burst open, and a man with a gun stepped out. Across the street, a young boy froze, the child of Catherine Hale, the powerful CEO of Hale Dynamics. Her son, Evan, was no older than 7, standing beside his mother's SUV while their driver loaded a briefcase in the trunk. Ryan didn't weigh the risk, he just ran. A shot rang out, then another. Ryan slammed into the boy, pushing him down behind a concrete pillar. The pain came instantly, white-hot, searing, cutting through his side as the bullet tore through him. But the boy was safe. "You're safe, kid," Ryan gasped, gripping the boy's trembling shoulder as the chaos exploded around them. The world blurred, shouts, footsteps, a woman's scream, and the metallic smell of blood mixed with dust. The shooter fled before security could react, leaving behind a street full of panic and disbelief. Catherine rushed forward, eyes wide with horror, cradling her son, then looking at Ryan. This stranger lying on the pavement, bleeding because he'd chosen to save her child. "Before we continue, if you believe kindness and second chances can still change the world, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Stories like this remind us that goodness still exists, even in unexpected places." Ryan woke up in the hospital hours later, his side wrapped in bandages, the faint beep of machines around him. He didn't remember much after the fall. Only the boy's frightened eyes and the sound of someone crying. His mind drifted to his own daughter, Amelia, who'd be waiting at home with her stuffed rabbit, asking why Daddy wasn't back yet. Ryan had been a construction foreman once, before layoffs took his job. Since then, he'd been juggling part-time gigs, driving deliveries, repairing fences, anything that paid enough to keep a roof over their heads. Life hadn't been easy. He wasn't a hero. He was just a man doing what felt right in the moment. When the doctor told him someone had paid his hospital bill in full, Ryan blinked in disbelief. Then he saw her, Catherine Hale herself, standing at the doorway in a crisp white coat, her expression a mix of gratitude and guilt. She thanked him again and again, but Ryan just smiled weakly and said, "I'd do it for anyone." Catherine didn't stay long. Her world was one of speed and strategy, phone calls, security briefings, and polished smiles. But something about the quiet strength in Ryan's voice stayed with her long after she left the hospital room. 2 days later, Ryan was discharged. The bullet had missed vital organs, though recovery would take time. Back at his small rented house on the edge of town, he tried to act normal for Amelia. He lifted her into his arms, ignoring the pain in his side as she wrapped her little hands around his neck and whispered, "Daddy, I missed you." That night, after putting her to bed, Ryan stood by the window, staring out at the quiet street. He didn't expect gratitude. He didn't expect anything at all. He'd done what any decent person would do. At least that's what he told himself. But fate, as it turned out, wasn't done with him yet. The next morning, just as the sun broke over the horizon, Ryan heard a low rumble. He stepped out to get the newspaper and froze. 6 black SUVs lined the narrow street outside his modest house, engines idling. Men in suits stepped out, their movements precise, professional. Ryan's pulse quickened. For a split second, panic flared. Had the shooter found him? Was someone after Amelia? Then a familiar figure stepped out of the lead vehicle, Catherine Hale. Neighbors peeked from behind curtains as the elegant CEO walked up the cracked driveway. Ryan's daughter, still in her pajamas, stood at the door holding her bunny, eyes wide with curiosity. Catherine knelt beside her, smiling softly. "You must be Amelia," she said gently. "Your dad is a very brave man." Ryan stepped forward, confusion etched across his face. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice wary. Catherine looked around the humble porch, then back at him. "I owe you more than thanks, Mr. Callan," she said. "You saved my son's life. I can't let that be forgotten." Before he could respond, she handed him an envelope, thick, sealed, bearing her company's crest. Inside were documents, a full-time job offer at Hale Dynamics, health coverage, and a relocation package. Ryan's throat tightened. "I can't accept this," he murmured. "I didn't do it for money. "I know," Catherine replied softly. "That's exactly why you deserve it." Over the next few weeks, Ryan's life began to change in ways he hadn't imagined. He started working as a safety supervisor at Hale Dynamics' new construction site. The pay was steady, the respect genuine, and for the first time in years he felt like he was building something that mattered. Catherine would visit occasionally, sometimes with Evan in tow. The boy, once shy and quiet, now ran up to Ryan with unshakable trust. "You're my hero," he said once, handing Ryan a small drawing of two stick figures. Holding hands, one tall, one small, beneath a bright yellow sun, it melted Ryan's heart. He hung it on his fridge. Still, beneath the surface of new beginnings, a quiet unease lingered. The attack that day hadn't been random. Someone had targeted Catherine's family. The police suspected a corporate rival, but evidence was scarce. Catherine's security detail was doubled, and she insisted on keeping Ryan under quiet protection. Something he only learned when one of her guards happened to show up at his job every morning. He didn't mind. In fact, he felt oddly safe knowing someone was watching out for Amelia too. One afternoon, Catherine visited the construction site alone. She found Ryan inspecting a new scaffolding beam, his sleeves rolled up, sweat glistening on his arms under the bright sun. "You're working too hard," she said with a half smile. Ryan laughed. "Comes with the job. I'm not used to sitting still." They talked for a while, not about business or gratitude, but about life. She told him how hard it was raising a child while running a company, always being judged, always expected to be perfect. He told her about Amelia, about the long nights when he'd wonder if he was doing enough. Somehow, in those quiet exchanges, two very different worlds began to understand each other. Weeks turned into months. Ryan's health improved, and so did his spirits. His small house was now filled with laughter. Amelia and Evan often played together, their friendship pure and unburdened. Catherine visited more frequently, sometimes bringing dinner, sometimes just to sit on the porch while the kids ran through the yard. But peace rarely lasts forever. One evening, just as Ryan was locking up the site, his phone buzzed. It was Catherine's head of security. "Mr. Collin, you need to come to the Hale estate, now." The urgency in the man's voice sent a chill down his spine. When he arrived, police cars filled the driveway. Evan had been kidnapped from the garden. The same symbol found at the previous attack site was carved into the fence, a warning. Catherine was frantic, her voice breaking as she gave statements to detectives. When she saw Ryan, she ran to him, tears streaming down her face. "They took my boy," she sobbed. "They took him, and I don't know what to do." Ryan's jaw clenched. "We'll get him back," he said firmly. "I promise." Without waiting for permission, he joined the search. Using his contacts from construction and delivery work, he traced a van, matching the witness's description to an abandoned warehouse near the docks. He called Catherine's security team, then went in first, flashlight in hand, every nerve on fire. Inside, he found Evan tied to a chair, frightened but unharmed. The kidnappers were still nearby, arguing over the ransom call. Ryan didn't think twice. He moved fast, grabbed a metal pipe, and struck first. The fight was brutal, messy, but he held his ground until sirens filled the night. By dawn, the boy was safe again, clinging to Ryan's neck, whispering the same words he'd heard once before. "You're safe, kid." When the dust settled, Catherine could no longer hide what she felt. Gratitude had turned into admiration, and admiration into something deeper. She visited Ryan at his home a few days later, standing on the same porch where they'd first met. "I don't think I've ever met anyone like you," she said quietly. "You've given me more than my son's life. You've given me faith in people again." Ryan looked at her for a long moment. "Maybe we both needed saving," he said softly. From that day forward, Catherine became part of their little world, not as a CEO, but as a friend, a protector, and eventually something more. Their lives, once shaped by fear and loss, began to grow around trust and love instead. Months later, a local news outlet published a story titled "The Man Who Took a Bullet for a Stranger's Child." The world learned about Ryan Cullen, the single dad whose courage bridged two worlds, one of power and one of humility. But for Ryan, the real reward wasn't fame or fortune. It was waking up each morning to Amelia's laughter, knowing that for once, life was giving him a second chance. If this story touched your heart, if you believe kindness still has the power to change lives, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Your support helps us spread real stories of hope and humanity. And before you go, leave a comment below. Would you risk everything for a stranger's child if it meant saving a life? Thank you for watching. And remember, even a single act of courage can ripple through the world in ways we may never see.